Imagine waking up before the world opens its eyes. No chaos, no noise, no pressure, just you and the version of yourself you've been trying to meet for years. This isn't just about waking up early. It's about stepping into a life with purpose, clarity, and control. Because the truth is simple. Your mornings shape your destiny. And the 5 a.m. rule, it's not a habit, it's a transformation. Number 1, early hours are mentally clean. The early hours of the morning hold a kind of clarity that the rest of the day simply cannot offer. Before the world begins moving, before responsibilities pull you in different directions, there is a brief window where your mind exists in its most natural state, uninterrupted, unburdened, and unusually sharp. This is the time when your thoughts are not competing with noise, opinions, or digital distractions. Your brain is operating without the residue of decision fatigue, without the emotional clutter that builds as the day progresses. In these quiet moments, you get access to a version of yourself that feels more focused, more intentional, and more honest. It's as though your internal dialogue becomes louder and clearer, guiding you instead of overwhelming you. The stillness of early morning has a grounding effect on the brain. When you wake up before the rush, your nervous system operates in a state of balance rather than reactivity. You're not rushing to catch up. You're not defending yourself from stress. You're not forced to respond to anything or anyone. Instead, you experience what psychologists call cognitive quiet, a space where your mind can process ideas with depth and clarity. In this state, the brain is more receptive to planning, reflection, and problem solving. Thoughts flow more naturally because they aren't being interrupted by constant input. You're able to see your priorities with far less confusion, making it easier to understand what actually matters to you and what doesn't. Another reason early hours feel mentally clean is the absence of social pressure. During the day, your attention is constantly pulled outward: emails, people's expectations, conversations, tasks waiting to be completed. Even when you think you're being productive, your mind is juggling multiple layers of noise. But in the early morning, there is no competition for your attention. You're free from comparison, free from urgency, free from performance. This lack of external demand gives your mind the rare opportunity to reconnect with internal intention. You can think without being influenced. You can plan without pressure. You can reflect without judgment. This is why so many breakthroughs, ideas, and moments of self-awareness tend to emerge when the world is still asleep. When your mind begins the day in this clean state, it becomes easier to maintain clarity throughout the rest of the day. The decisions you make feel more aligned, the actions you take feel more purposeful, and the version of yourself you show to the world comes from a place of stability rather than survival. Number 2, discipline creates identity. Discipline is more than a routine or a habit. It is the silent architect of who you become. Every decision you make, especially the ones no one sees, slowly shapes the internal narrative you hold about yourself. When you consistently choose discipline, even in small ways, you begin to form an identity rooted in strength, reliability, and self-respect. You're not just doing difficult things, you are proving to yourself that you are the kind of person who can follow through. This internal shift is subtle at first, but over time it becomes the foundation of your self-image. You begin to trust your own word, and that trust becomes a kind of internal power that influences everything you do. Discipline reshapes the way you think because it forces you to confront your impulses, excuses, and emotional resistance. When you override them, not once, but repeatedly, you are teaching your mind that comfort is not the priority, growth is. You develop a different relationship with struggle. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, you begin to see them as evidence of your evolving capabilities. This transformation doesn't happen in a single moment. It emerges through the repetition of small disciplined actions. Waking up when you don't feel like it, sticking to a plan when motivation fades, choosing the harder path because you know it aligns with your goals. Each of these choices reinforces a new identity from the inside out. Over time, your brain learns that you are someone who acts with intention rather than emotion, and that belief becomes part of your psychological DNA. People often misunderstand discipline as a restriction, but it is actually the opposite. Lack of discipline traps you inside a cycle of inconsistency, frustration, and self-doubt. With discipline, you gain the freedom to build the life you want because you are no longer governed by temporary feelings. You create stability in a world full of unpredictability. This stability becomes a defining part of who you are. It becomes a personal standard. And once that standard is set, you start making decisions that align with it automatically. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop relying on inspiration to act. You simply follow the identity you've crafted through consistent behavior. What most people don't realize is that identity always follows action. You don't become disciplined by thinking about it, reading about it, or wishing for it. You become disciplined by proving it to yourself repeatedly through action after action, choice after choice, moment after moment. Number 3, small mornings build big lives. Small mornings build big lives because the way you begin your day sets the tone for everything that follows. When you choose to start your morning with intention instead of chaos, you are quietly constructing a foundation for growth that compounds over time. Early hours are often seen as insignificant, just a routine, just a start, just another sunrise. But the truth is that the smallest parts of your morning determine how you think, how you behave, and how you respond for the rest of the day. A structured morning signals to your brain that you are in control, that you are leading your life rather than reacting to it. These early choices, though small, ripple outward into the larger decisions you make throughout the day, influencing the direction of your work, your emotions, and your long-term goals. There is something powerful about doing meaningful work before the world even wakes up. When you use your mornings to build clarity, to move your body, to reflect, or to pursue your goals, you create a sense of progress before the day has even begun. This early momentum becomes a psychological advantage. You feel ahead instead of behind. You feel prepared instead of overwhelmed. You feel grounded instead of scattered. And when you accumulate this feeling day after day, your life begins to shift in ways that others often mistake for luck or talent. But it's neither. It's the result of small commitments repeated consistently in the early hours when nobody is watching. Small mornings also remove the unnecessary complexity that creeps into your life later in the day. By starting with simple, intentional actions, you protect yourself from the mental clutter that comes from rushing into tasks without structure. You give your mind a quiet environment to think about what truly matters instead of being pulled towards urgency and distractions. In these early moments, you can plan your day with clarity rather than reacting to it blindly. You can choose your priorities instead of falling into someone else's. You can build a rhythm that reflects the kind of life you want to live instead of drifting into patterns that leave you feeling drained or behind. Over time, these small mornings accumulate into something far bigger than the actions themselves. They build discipline without stress. They build confidence without noise. They build direction without pressure. They build a subtle, steady transformation that grows from the inside outward. And because mornings are repeated every single day, they become the most powerful tool you have for shaping the kind of life you are trying to build. Number 4, morning silence unlocks power. Morning silence unlocks power because it offers a type of mental stillness that cannot be recreated once the noise of the day begins. In those early moments, the world is paused, no demands, no conversations, no expectations pressing against your mind. This silence creates a rare environment where your thoughts have room to expand without competing with external noise. Your brain is naturally more open, more receptive, and more grounded. Without the constant stimulation that usually fills your day, you gain access to a deeper level of clarity. Ideas become sharper, reflections become more honest, and decisions become more aligned with who you actually want to be. This quiet space is where your mind reconnects with its own voice instead of drowning in the noise of others. Silence in the morning is powerful because it activates the part of your mind that rarely gets space to breathe. Throughout the day, your attention is fragmented. You're responding, reacting, adjusting, juggling. But in the early morning silence, your brain shifts into a state where it can focus completely. You process thoughts more deeply. You reflect without interruption. You explore ideas that normally get pushed aside because life moves too fast. This is why many people find answers to problems they've struggled with for days simply by sitting alone in the quiet hours before sunrise. Your mind isn't being pulled in 100 directions. It's free to connect dots, to analyze, and to imagine. This mental freedom becomes a form of internal power that strengthens your ability to think, create, and choose with intention. Morning silence also builds emotional strength. When you start the day in quiet reflection, you give yourself the chance to check in with your own emotions before the world influences them. You have time to understand how you truly feel, not how you're expected to feel. This emotional awareness stabilizes you. It makes you less reactive, less overwhelmed, and more centered throughout the day. Silence gives you the space to breathe before life demands your energy. That calmness becomes a protective layer that helps you handle challenges with a clearer mind and a stronger sense of control. Instead of carrying yesterday's stress into a new day, the silence allows you to reset mentally and emotionally so you can begin fresh rather than burdened. When silence becomes a morning practice, it slowly transforms the way you move through the world. You become more intentional with your actions, more thoughtful with your choices, and more aware of your internal direction. The world becomes less loud, less chaotic, because you've already grounded yourself in quiet strength before the day even begins. Number 5, consistency beats motivation. Consistency beats motivation because motivation is an emotion, unpredictable, unstable, and easily influenced by your environment, while consistency is a decision that is carried out regardless of how you feel. Motivation depends on mood, energy, and circumstances, which means it fluctuates from day to day. Some mornings you wake up inspired and some mornings you don't. Some days you feel driven and others you feel completely disconnected. But consistency ignores all of that. It asks one simple question: will you show up whether you feel like it or not? When you choose consistency over the temporary boost of motivation, you build habits that don't crumble under pressure. You create progress even when your emotions are working against you. This steady, unglamorous repetition becomes the force that moves your life forward when inspiration is nowhere to be found. The truth is that most meaningful progress doesn't come from big moments of motivation, but from small, repeated actions that stack over time. People often believe that success is born out of passion or a sudden burst of determination, but the reality is much quieter. It comes from doing the same things day after day, long after the initial excitement fades. Consistency creates discipline, and discipline creates results. When you show up again and again, even on the days you feel tired, uninspired, or frustrated, you reinforce a powerful identity. You become the kind of person who follows through. Your brain learns that your actions are not controlled by emotions, but by commitment. This internal shift is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Consistency builds trust in yourself, and that trust becomes the foundation for every future goal. Another reason consistency beats motivation is that it removes the decision-making struggle that drains your mental energy. When you rely on motivation, you constantly negotiate with yourself. Should I do it now? Should I wait? Do I feel ready? This mental back and forth consumes focus and time, but when you commit to consistency, the decision is already made. You act out of routine rather than emotion, and this reduces stress while increasing productivity. Over time, your habits begin to operate on autopilot. Consistency simplifies your life by eliminating unnecessary choices and replacing them with structure. And within that structure, you develop a powerful momentum that pushes you forward even when your energy dips or your confidence wavers. Consistency doesn't feel dramatic or exciting, but it builds results that motivation cannot sustain. It creates a rhythm, a pattern of effort, and a quiet certainty that progress is happening even when you cannot see it yet. Through consistency, you build the strength to keep going, the patience to withstand slow progress, and the resilience to rise after setbacks. Number 6, the world rewards the prepared. The world rewards the prepared because preparation creates an undeniable advantage, an invisible head start that becomes visible only when opportunities appear. Most people wait for the moment to arrive before they begin to get ready, but by the time they feel the urgency, it's already too late. Preparation is the quiet work done behind the scenes, long before anyone is watching, long before results show, long before success feels close. It's the hours spent learning, practicing, planning, and refining when no one else is paying attention. When you prepare consistently, you place yourself in a position where opportunities don't overwhelm you, they fit you. You don't panic, you don't scramble, you don't freeze. You respond with clarity because you've already done the work. The world seems unpredictable, but it rewards those who anticipate, who build quietly, who treat every day as training for the future they want. Preparation strengthens your confidence in a way that nothing else can. When you know that you have put in the effort, You walk into every situation with a different energy, calmer, steadier, more grounded. You speak differently, you think differently, you carry yourself differently. Confidence built from preparation is not loud or aggressive. It's rooted in competence. It comes from knowing you have practiced enough times that failure doesn't intimidate you. And because you've mentally rehearsed the challenges ahead, you don't see them as threats. You see them as expected steps along the way. Preparedness transforms fear into readiness. It reduces anxiety because your mind understands the terrain before you step onto it. People often assume others are naturally confident, but in reality, most confidence is simply preparation expressed through composure. Being prepared also sharpens your ability to recognize opportunities that others overlook. When you're unprepared, even the best opportunities feel inconvenient, risky, or impossible. But when you've done the groundwork, you see openings where others see obstacles. You notice small chances that lead to big results because your mind is trained to understand what aligns with your goals. Prepared people appear lucky from the outside, but what looks like luck is usually a moment where preparation and opportunity meet. The world rewards those who prepare because preparation creates the capacity to take action immediately, without hesitation, without doubt, and without needing extra time to adjust. Over time, preparation becomes a quiet form of power. It gives you stability in moments of chaos, direction in moments of confusion, and resilience in moments of challenge. It places you ahead, not because you are better than others, but because you took the time to be ready when it mattered most. Rise early, claim your mornings, and take control of your life. Every act of discipline builds the person you are becoming. The world rewards the prepared, and the strongest version of you is waiting on the other side of the alarm. Start now and let your mornings define your destiny.